Greetings, everyone. I bet y'all forgot or thought that I was through with videos. Nope. I'm not through with videos, although I may be cutting back on them. But last Friday, I planned on doing a video, but I had a death in my family and was making some plans and so forth um, to uh, actually go up to Anderson and so forth. So it was just too busy a day, and the video really kind of slipped by. But I did have some things that I wanted to talk about, particularly today, and to kind of catch everybody up on some things. But first and foremost, I want to clear the air about the recent change of our holiday from being called Good Friday to now being called Spring Break Holiday or something like that. And I want y'all to understand real clear that it was not the Inclusion Council that made this decision. And I want to give you some little bit better understanding of this. So, we Care South is a federal grantee. And as a federal grantee, and frankly, as it should be for healthcare providers, we adhere to a large range of policies and procedures. Notably, and I'm going to make a copy of this, it'll actually be attached to the email that I send out for this. We have a policy and have had one since the beginning of policies. I think it actually goes back to 1999 around equal opportunity, essentially non discrimination. And this is, we have one for patients specifically, but we also have a specific HR policy that is specific for employees. And it talks about all of our employment practices, which would include holidays, everything to do with hiring, training, everything to do with employment. And it says real clear that this is without regard to race, color, religion, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity, national origin, age, disability, or genetics. I am reading it directly from that policy. We are required to adhere to that. But not just that, it's the right thing to do. Pure South has become much, much more diverse. When we were only 50 or 20 or 100 employees, we were kind of homogenous. There wasn't a lot of variability amongst us, a lot of diversity. There wasn't. But now we are over 600, 610 or whatever it is. And we have a very, very diverse workforce. Not only that, but there was information that was given to us, federally qualified health centers in South Carolina, that there had been and I don't know if it was a formal complaint or whether it was an inquiry made to HRSA about a community health center in South Carolina whose practices had been discriminatory against their religion. I don't think it was us, and I'm pretty assured that it wasn't us, but that means that it was someone. And they were concerned and had raised enough question. And HRSA had reminded everyone that we are not to discriminate. And in that discrimination, the issue around holidays. Now, many of y'all have brought up that you felt like this was a slap in the face of your Christian beliefs. I certainly am so regretful of that. Many of y'all know, as I have talked about previously, that I am an ordained elder in my Presbyterian church. I have a very solid and deep background and foundation of my religious Christianity. But because of that religious and my Christianity, I believe that we should be loving and respectful and kind to everyone, regardless of their religion and regardless of whether we're required to as an organization, as we are required to. I just feel that that is part of the love that we share with humankind. So I'm very regretful that some of you feel like, as Christians, you have been, uh, I don't know, slapped in the face or disrespected in some way, and I'm sorry for that. But we also have other folks on staff who do not celebrate Easter or Good Friday, and for whom that does not feel appropriate for them. We're not going to lose the holiday. We're still going to have that Friday off. It's just going to be a spring holiday. And once again, I want to say this, it was not the Inclusion Council. We cannot throw them under the bus. This has been an executive decision. So I hope that sort of kind of clears up some things. I'm very regretful that the extraordinary good work that the Inclusion Council has been doing may have been, I don't know, stymied by this development or undermined or eroded because, folks, inclusion is about everything, everything. And that is really our mission, because remember, the mission of Care South is to improve health and well being for everyone. And well being is not just about health, though we wouldn't have put it in there. Well being is about addressing inequalities, social injustices, because that is indeed the very foundation of community health centers. Many of y'all have been hired during this COVID period, and you haven't had the benefit of what others have had, and that's an orientation that we send folks to at the Primary Care Association. And in that orientation, part of it is learning about the history of community health centers. And folks, we have a very, very rich history that many of y'all may not know about or maybe haven't given a lot of a lot of thought to. But the history of community health centers goes way back and is indeed built on a foundation of addressing social injustice and health inequities. I'm going to repeat that because I think that is very important, that we are not just about medical care. We are a community health center, a community health center whose history goes way back to the 1965s, when the war on poverty was beginning, when the Office of Economic Opportunity, who, by the way, was the very first entity in the government that funded what now has become community health centers, because out of the Office of Economic Opportunity, OEO, they recognized that health was one of the foundational needs that people had in order to live happy, well, and healthy lives, productive lives. So we have a long history of that. Our founders, the Geiger Gibson duo that we talk about, recognized that early on. We're not a private practice, we're not a hospital. We are different. We are a community health center. So I'm going to give you some links in my email. There is one in particular, the CHC Chronicles, because until we can get our orientation cranked up to really give some background and history, be proud of that legacy. Take a look in the history and in these CHC Chronicles and see how it is that not only as an individual community health center, Care South Carolina, but also as a body of community health centers across the nation, we are rich in our foundation of addressing social injustices, of assuring that there is no discrimination, and that are being the very um, foundations of what is just and right and healthy and promotes the well being for everyone. So, enough being said about that. I just needed to make that point because of some of the things that I was hearing as a result of that decision around the Good Friday holiday. You're not losing the day, it's changing the name. Uh, a few things on COVID, not much. There's not a lot going on COVID, but it is ticking up slightly in cases. There is that new variant out there, BA.2.12. It is highly transmissible. We have had a few more cases within our own staff. Not gone away, folks. You know, I spoke to you about the recent event in my family, and I was very concerned personally about going to a funeral. I've heard some pretty crazy things about what has been happening. I made my personal decision that I would, but I would do so safely. I was literally the only one wearing a mask in that whole service, but I wore my mask. I tested before I went up for my trip, and I tested when I got back. I want to be safe not only for myself, but for all the folks around me. And by the way, I tested negative. So it's not over. We have to be careful. We have to be considerate, respectful, and understand that this has been a big deal. We are still in a national public health emergency that is extended until July, mid-July, about mid-July. So it ain't done with yet. I'm going to close with some celebratory remarks. This has been a big week at Care South. We opened up in our new building in Dillon on Tuesday, and I heard stories about patients coming in just wide eyed at how glorious it was. Our new buildings really are quite beautiful, and sharing this building with the Department of Health and having their WIC services right there for our patients, and us doing our own family planning and immunization services, kind of taking over that aspect of what DHEC had been doing in Dillon, is a real it's a real landmark. It really is in our history. And also, we finally did a ribbon cutting at our new McCall building just last night, Thursday evening, May the 12th. And that was a real landmark. You know, McCall opened in June 2019. And for many of y'all, you may not know the history of this McCall building. This building is glorious. It is truly a beautiful facility. It has, of course, the medical piece to it, but it also has a wellness component to it with a gym and therapy services offered, because this entire building and the property it sits on was a donation from the Love Foundation. Charles Love was the president of that foundation at that time, and he recognized that the legacy that his father had left wanted to address needs of Care South. And Dr. Love, his Charles Love's father, was a dentist in the area, and he sat at one time on our board of directors. Oh, I can remember so much about him coming to our board meetings and his compassion and commitment to the needs of the folks in his community. His heart was made of gold and platinum and diamond and every other precious thing you could do because it was as big as the universe would allow. And when he died, he wanted that legacy to be passed on in his family. And Charles Love was certainly cut from the same fabric that his dad was, with such a compassionate and gentle and caring heart. We lost Charles Love. He died from the period that we had opened the building. Um, uh, as I said at the ribbon cutting last night, the death of Charles Love was like having a part of my heart ripped out of me because of his compassion, his love, his commitment to his community. We were standing and doing the ribbon cutting in such a glorious building that will forevermore be a legacy to the Loves, to Charles Love, and to his father and his mother. Um, Take a look on Facebook. There's some wonderful pictures being posted. So it was a real hallmark in the Care South Carolina history was to finally cut a ribbon and welcome people to the facility. We even though we opened it on June 19th, we were June 2019. We were still trying to figure out a good date that would have impacted the Love family, so that all of them could be present. And then COVID hit, and then Charles Love died. His brother, Alan, and a lot of the Love family was there at the ribbon cutting, and it was truly a glorious event. So we've had some pretty good hallmarks this past week at Care South. Folks, on an ongoing basis, I'll try to give you a heads up on the videos, but I'm kind of thinking every other week, unless something comes up, and then I'll pop in for a weekly, maybe here and there. Until then, I'll keep you up to date as best I can. We are beginning to think again about a staff meeting. No promises, knock on wood. But we need to see each other. We need to connect again. So y'all take care in the meantime. Be safe, though there really is still a virus out there. Bye bye.